Welcome to Pod Band Pipecast.
The premier pipe band podcast.
Yay! See, we don't usually have people switch off like that. I feel like it's maybe easier to switch off.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, hello and welcome everyone to Pod Band Pipecast once again. We have two people on the show who you will recognize if you've listened to all of our episodes, which of course you have, because why wouldn't you?
Exactly. If you haven't, go back and listen to them.
Yeah, because why wouldn't you?
The lore
And the storylines. So these two people you will recognize. This is Kevin Conquest and Mike McKee, and we are very thankful to have them back again on the show. Thank you guys for being here.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
So, our band, Mesa Caledonian, released a quarantine video project, I guess we're calling it. Maybe?
Pandemic project?
Pandemic project? I don't know.
Quarantine.
We weren't like quarantine.
Yeah.
I don't know. So what a video.
Well, nothing rhymes, like music albums or songs or anything, nothing rhymes with quarantine. So it's kind of hard to use that. Whereas pandemic project sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the alliteration.
Yeah, pandemic project.
Right.
Pretty cool pandemic project. I was
Although
going to try to.
quarantine concert would work. Just saying.
Yeah.
So in the future, when we do, well, I hope we're not still in quarantine in the future.
Don't wish this on us, Kaylee.
No.
Let's get through this and move on.
Anyway, if you haven't seen it, you can visit the Facebook page for Mesa Caledonian Pipe Band, or you can visit mcpb.org. It's on the homepage there. I know because I just put it there like a few days ago. So, or you can visit YouTube. Search for, I believe our YouTube page is just called Mesa Caledonian Pipe Band. I think that's.
You can't find it.
You can't find? Okay.
You can't. I've searced on YouTube. We uploaded it, and you search Mesa Caledonian. It doesn't come up.
You can find it now.
Oh, you can?
It was just because it was a brand new YouTube.
Oh,
channel,
okay.
so it was hard to search.
Literally, I had
Okay.
to Google it, and then
Yeah,
I
it's
found
the
the
first thing that
YouTube.
popped up.
Okay, good. Never mind. Scratch that.
Here we go. Mike and I are sitting here thinking we have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, exactly. The band now has a YouTube channel, so
There we go.
if you can find it on YouTube, I guess give it a like so we can boost the ratings or whatever, so we can find it easier. And if not, there's two other places where you can find it. So go watch it, and if you don't watch it, you're not going to understand this episode because we're going to be talking about that video and the making of that video. So if you don't watch it, you're just not gonna
have the backstory.
not gonna make any sense.
You're gonna miss all the character development.
Yeah. And yeah, just trust us. Go watch it.
Yeah, it'll
Oh,
be
wait.
like watching Rise of Skywalker without ever having seen another Star Wars movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's not gonna make any sense. So now that you've returned to this episode after having watched that video, we are going to talk to these two guys right here about the audio aspect of this project. So there's there's the audio and the video, and we'll have a future episode on how we did the video. But these two musical masterminds were behind the arrangement, composition, and audio recording and editing and production and all of that. So let's dive right into some questions we have for you guys. We're going to try to get some backstory on who did what and how it worked and some lessons learned, so that if you would like to do your own pandemic video project or your own video project, even if we're not in the pandemic, which I hope we're not eventually,
One day.
maybe this will help you. Or maybe you just want to know the behind the scenes insider info. We got you. All right.
Let's do it. So, how did this video project come about?
Well, my understanding is that Diane Nunez, our pipe sergeant, originally came up with the idea and brought it out and said, we need to do something. Somebody mentioned the Gael, and then I think this was back in June or July. I got roped into being kind of a consultant because I can arrange things and write things out. So I wrote it out. Back then, I wrote in the chords, and then we just went back and forth for at least a week. between, I think, Diane, Chris, and I think some other people were in on it. And it was really their inspiration. I was more of a consultant. They said, write it like this. So I'd write it like that. And they said, oh, no, change this, change that. And we finally came up with the version that we liked. I wrote the harmony to it. And then we sent it on down the pike. But everybody else played with it. So that was kind of the inception, the beginning of the project.
Right. And that's pretty much spot on with how it went. You know, Diane was the one that brought up to everybody that we needed to do something.
Yeah.
And I strongly believe that had we not had this project, especially during the early parts of the pandemic, our band would have pretty much bled out and we would have lost interest because we needed something. We weren't meeting in person. We were trying to have a couple practices in person. Zoom was a new thing for the band, and you know, Zoom lessons or Zoom practices have their own sets of challenges for sure. Trying to play together on a Zoom is just not happening, especially if everybody's got their mics active. But yeah, Diane had asked us if we should do a project, and she was the one that came up with the idea for the Gael. I was a big supporter of that. I had seen many different performances of the Gael over the years from different bands, and about 20 some years ago, Royal Scots Dragoon Guards released an album where they worked with Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits and did several different tracks with rock bands or more orchestral work, and the Gael was one of them. And that had been an inspiration for me in my early pipe band career. So I was a instant yes to do the Gael, and Mike did a great job setting out the initial chords and the harmonies and what he needed to do, and then the rest of the band's arrangement needed to come in from there. So I wrote the drum scores for the snares, the tenor, the bass, and then using that initial set of chords that Mike came up with, I worked around that to come up with all the other instruments. And we did start talking about this briefly in June. July was when it really started picking up steam and speed for the idea. And then August was when we sent out the music to folks to get them going and have them start working on it. But I remember spending a lot of time in August in several different programs, Sibelius and other ones working on sheet music for all the different instruments. And one of the cool things that came out of this, and this is where having a band of talented people is one thing, but then having something like a pandemic to force us to look at what we value from a musical perspective and what's important to us. It was great to ask folks in the band, what do you play? And come up with an entire arrangement, entire score of all these different instruments. And it was great to see people volunteering and stepping up saying, hey, I play saxophone. Hey, I play guitar. I play bass, keyboards, violin, cello, fiddle, whistle. We had all these folks volunteering, and what could have been a very simple pipe band track of just the 4 pipe band instruments with some harmony and maybe one guitar and a whistle turned into a full-on suite. And it was amazing to watch it grow. But yeah, arranging all the music, Mike, I don't know how much time you spent on it, but I was keeping track on my stuff. It was 100 hours of work to compose all that.
Yeah, that's I didn't spend quite that much time.
Right.
I took a lot of other people's work. I go online and find scores that I can either download or look at and work from there. So a lot of my part was just the back and forth and getting it done right.
Right. And it's funny you mentioned that, because there is a lot of borrowing in pipe band. Mm-hmm. I don't consider it, plagiarism in the strictest sense, because anytime one band plays a tune that another band played before, it's going to sound similar. But one thing that was important to me when I was doing all the arrangements for the other instruments was, yes, you're borrowing ideas from what you've heard from other interpretations of the Gael. And as long as a tune is in a certain key, it's going to sound similar from one group to the next. If somebody covers a Beatles song, it's still going to sound like a Beatles song because it was a Beatles song to begin with. But I didn't want our arrangement to be a copycat of anything. And that was a big stressor on my part doing the arrangements, because it's very easy to hear something in your head years ago and bring it back up and think that it might be your idea musically, but it's not. It's somebody else's. And then, like I mentioned, the Scots DJ geez, they did such a great version of that back in the early 2000s. And they've done it at the Tattoos. They've done it, all these different groups have done the Gael before. I didn't want to just copycat one thing and make it just, here's the same chord progressions. We're just using a different guitar, right? It had to sound different. And I think we accomplished that.
Yeah.
So, Mike, when you were starting the first draft, I guess, so did you take what other people had done before, and did you have to make any major like amendments to the actual pipe music, or were there any challenges with finding actual pipe music for the Gael?
I don't think it was a challenge. We played it a long time ago, so I had that score, and then just I think I went back to the original, the soundtrack from the movie. I forget the group that did that, but yeah, it was a Scottish or Irish group that did that music, and I went right from there. Wrote it down as just like they played it, got the chords, and then worked from there. I think we decided that instead of doing it in 4/4, it should be in 3/4, so we wouldn't have those long, drawn-out notes in the pipes.
That actually caused a problem
simple
for me on the arrangements going.
I knew that was going to happen,
right?
But I thought you would rise to the occasion there. And
cheers, man.
It worked. It worked great. But yeah, coming up with that, and then certain notes are held and cut differently. So we had to decide how to do that, and we're dealing with some really experienced pipers and some brand new pipers, and we really wanted to include everybody. So the pipe score couldn't be too complicated. Just keep a simple organization about it, and then work from there. But yeah, I thought about the 3/4 arrangement, but that's what was decided, and I thought, yeah, you can work with that. My original score, I wrote it out in a music program, and I had all the pipes, the harmony, and then under that I put the jig part, which matches perfectly as long as it's in 4/4. Then we changed it, so I thought there was a way around that.
Yeah.
So that was how I worked through it.
Did you write the harmony in any different way, knowing that other instruments would be incorporated, or was it kind of like you did, the melody and harmony of a complete pipe tune, and then just it's Kevin's problem to figure it out?
Well, the old way of writing harmony was to write in thirds all the way through, which works great for pipes. It sounds good, but it's not really, doesn't always fit the harmony of the tune. I tried to keep it matching with the harmony of the tune with the chords, because I think the harmony I wrote was just long chord harmony, and I tried to change it. There were some passing tones, some notes that went in between the chords that I thought might have been a problem, but on the pipes it would be a problem because dissonance stands out more in the pipes when you're playing harmony than with other instruments, but it seemed to work out. So I worked with the harmony that was written.
Nice.
It did work out too, especially when writing like the synthesizer part, and having the cello and the fiddle repeating through there. It was easy to complement the standard pipe harmonies that you had written.
Yeah.
And fill in some of that dissonance and audibly distract the listener from something, because there were a couple notes that from a pipe band perspective you'd cringe and think, ooh, that didn't sound very good, but we can fill in that space and mix it, so it worked.
So when you chose the instruments, you mentioned you asked people what they played. Did you ask and then write based on that, or did you just write the parts and hope that somebody played them? What did that look like?
No, I worked with what I knew we had, again, asking people in the band first was the right thing to do, and farm out. And a lot of it wasn't even asking. People were coming up and saying, hey, by the way, I play this. And, one example, I didn't really think about penny whistle for this one. And Adrienne volunteered. She just went ahead and recorded it. And it was great. So,
I don't need you to write a stinking part
we've
for
got
me.
one now. Yeah, we've got one now. But no, it wasn't a case of just writing something and hoping for the best. We knew what we had. I expected to fill in a few things. I knew that I was going to be doing a lot of guitar work on it, and that was an intention that I had wanted to do from the start. So I planned for that for sure. But it wasn't like I was going to just say, oh, let's throw a clarinet into this and hope somebody's got it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, were there any challenges with incorporating those instruments?
Definitely. Absolutely.
All of them.
All of them. Okay, so and now we get into the best part of this project from a learning perspective, and chapter 1 of how to play bagpipes with other instruments. When the notes A and B match neither A nor B on a concert scale. So what we had to do was work around the fact that not everybody in the band had concert B-flat channers. If we had enough B-flat channers to go around the band, even in a pandemic, this would have been fantastic, because the pipes could have tuned at maybe 466 and there would be no audio tuning issues whatsoever. But with our band typically tuning at 484, 485, taking something like that, so A484, and trying to put it with instruments that are typically tuned to A440 and tuned to a concert B-flat scale is not happening under normal circumstances. And speaking of dissonance, I mean, it peels the enamel off your teeth when you listen to it and it's incorrect like that. So it did take a lot of work to work around that. At one point, I had talked to Diane and Chris about, and I even volunteered, can I take the B-flat channers to people's houses, like sanitize them and leave them on their doorstep? Because this was early on in the pandemic and we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what was safe or whatnot. And we can't help each other tune their pipes. When you think about it, bagpipes are not a sanitary instrument. So it's not all that stuff about reeds and all that, that's all changing from now on. So if we could have done that, it would have been very easy. So we could not. So we had to look at, how do we tune other instruments to match the pipes? Guitars are a little bit easier because the tuning is malleable. I did create a short little video and put it on the band's Facebook group on how to tune for other instruments. So it's like planning to meet the instrument halfway, or have them meet. So we knew that the pipes were tuning at 484. So you just need to do some math on the hertz of tuning and say, okay, well, if we're going to plan for that, then we'll have the other instruments plan to tune for A454. I think that's right. I'll have to go back and watch my own video. I don't know. I don't remember what it was now, but that's 457, and it matched up that it would work. So the instruments that could do that would be fine. A guitar just tunes slightly sharp, and that's fine. A bass guitar tunes slightly sharp. A keyboard or synthesizer, if it has the ability to adjust the tuning, that worked really well. The surprising ones is we were going to have some saxophone work and some other things in there, but that was actually very difficult to tune up, because you can only move a mouthpiece on the neck of a saxophone up so far before it can't go any farther. So instruments that could not adjust their tuning, that needed to be pitch corrected in production. And so there was a little bit of that. I had a small ethical debate with myself about how much editing and pitch correction I wanted to do. But the answer was, hey, look, are you not going to tune pipes at a competition? Of course you are. Are you not going to tune drums at a competition? Of course you are. So for the purpose of what we were doing for this project, doing pitch correction where it was needed is no different than tuning the pipes in a live event. So there's nothing wrong with that. And to be fair, some of the pipers, aren't as good as tuning their pipes, especially new pipers. They don't know how to tune as well as someone who's been playing for 20 years. So there was some of that as well. It's interesting. And then there are instruments that we just absolutely had to pitch correct. You can't really tune a penny whistle. So, I mean, some are designed to have some tuning, but if it's a straight tube of metal with a hole in one end and a hole in the other and some fingering hole, that's all you're getting.
So speaking of tuning, and I guess I'll direct the question to Mike. I know this wasn't really one of the questions that we had sent to you, but it's a question that I just thought of. So, Mike, as a piper who is participating in this project, how did your process of, first of all, getting your pipes tuned for this, and then also recording your audio, like, did you use a tuner and then go, okay, I'm at 484, I should match? Or if it was it like you listened and then you played along and then you were kind of like eyeballing it or earballing it,
drumming it.
you know what I mean? Like, what was your process for saying, okay, I'm going to make a bagpipe recording right now and it has to match what everyone else is playing?
It's easy and hard. We have tuners on our phones where we can tune it to a specific pitch. So if it's 484, I could tune the low A to 484 and adjust all the other notes. That means a lot of taping, a little more tape than usual. But I think with where we tuned, we didn't need a whole lot of tape. A good chanter and a good reed would pretty much settle in there. Taping a little on the G, the D, a few other notes, and then just play it a little bit to make sure it wasn't going to drift, and then everything tunes to that. So it wasn't too hard to do. We just had to settle in that one pitch.
Then you just had the recording on your earbuds, I guess, and you just played along with the recording, right?
Yeah. I think one of them, the one I played in the front room, I might have had headsets on, but my hair was so big at that point that you couldn't tell. So I was playing along with that. When I was playing outside, I had a speaker and I just kind of played along. I had already made the audio track, and that was the video track,
Right.
Which is what we had to do. There was a lot of livestock out there and other things I didn't want to spook.
And you hear in the background, moo.
Yeah, I was just hoping. There were javelina out there, horses, cattle, rednecks. So you didn't know who was going to wander by.
Right.
Nice.
Number six, yeah. That's that. So, because we kind of just asked Mike about the process for recording the pipe audio, but
what about other instruments and editing the audio? What was the process for that?
Okay. There were several unique processes based upon what instrument we're talking about. So with the drums, that was an interesting challenge. And from that came the standpoint, especially when we weren't allowed to practice in person, any recordings that were done, the audio recordings that were done away from a band setting, you have the difference in acoustics of where they're playing, a difference in tuning, especially with the tenors. Each one has to have a different pitch. But interestingly enough, the recordings where the tenor drum was over carpet, the tenor drum sounded really dead compared to someone playing on a hardwood floor, which, just like an acoustic guitar, that's going to resonate really well, versus some of the recordings that we were able to do over at St. Mark's in the sanctuary, where we have that really tall ceiling, that had a ton of reverb and ambiance and echo and everything else, where, again, you get somebody just playing in their office carpet, or if they've got the ceiling fan. There were a couple of recordings I got of all the instruments where somebody was playing and they had the ceiling fan going above it, and you could actually hear it running in the background. Or you can hear something else going on. Somebody's got a dishwasher going or something like that. But the drums took a lot of work to get that going. And with the snare drums, I think Cody's first track was in his bedroom closet. So it had the sharp attack of the snare drum, but it didn't have any sustain whatsoever. But you take that, and then again, I did a snare track on my kitchen floor, and that was way too loud because everything's wood, cabinets, the floor, everything else, and then the stone countertops. So that was just a huge echo chamber. Guitars, I did that directly into the computer. I did do a couple early tracks through an amplifier and then run the amp into GarageBand, but I decided that the amp models in GarageBand were actually better than what I was using for my own stuff at home in real life. Other instruments that came along, again, the cello, that was done with just a standard, I think that was done with a tablet. So that was just, what we got from the video recording of that is what we used. A couple of the pipe tracks were sent in same way with a tablet. So we had individual pipe tracks, and then right before New Year, we got a few pipers together to do some trios in person. And that was just to build up the band sound, because you can have a bunch of solo pipers playing solo tracks and you'll get them together and it'll sound like a bunch of pipers. But from an ensemble standpoint, there's always something really subtle that when you're not in a band setting, and our master track was great. We had a great setup with the master track. Alex did a phenomenal job narrating what the tune was, what the tempo was, how many bars of intro you're going to get. And it was a very calming effect to listen to that master track and have that voice talking to us about it. And it settled us all in. But again, it's not the same thing as playing as a band in person. So getting us together to have the trios, that just added a little bit of depth to the sound and a little bit more togetherness. So it's interesting. It was a trip, that's for sure.
I know there's going to be people listening that are still like not understanding or whatever, and I don't want to point out, I don't want to single out anyone, but I know there are some tracks that we didn't end up using, right? Like someone submitted a video or audio that just, it didn't sound right? And I think that's probably surprising to some people, because, we had probably 20 or 30 different audio, I guess it would have been a lot more, it'd probably been closer to 30 audio tracks and that were submitted, and we couldn't use all of them, right?
So surprisingly enough, yes, you're right. We had about 30 tracks of submissions. And then when we actually have the final audio project, there were over 50 audio tracks involved. So the number of times we put pipes in, or we merged a few things, or just because the way the guitar parts worked out, if you want a guitar solo to sound like it's coming out of both speakers, you have a left channel and a right channel, and you move things around. But yes, you're right. There were some tracks that were not usable, and not as a punishment to anybody. And
Right.
I know it's, we're not singling anyone out here, because to be fair, there were tracks that I cut myself out of. I just said, this is garbage, I'm not using it. And I came back and did it again later, or I forgot about it and said, we're not doing this on, and it's okay. But yeah, and that was a challenge of the recording during a pandemic when we weren't allowed to be together. If you take somebody who's only been playing their instrument for 6 months, and we have people in the band like that, if they don't know how to tune their instrument well enough, give them another shot. We did that. There were some that we waited until we could practice again in September, and we got them again in the church, and that was good. But I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but it sucks, right? You want to make sure everybody's involved, and everybody was. That at the end up, everyone was involved somehow. But yes, it's okay that sometimes things just didn't go the way that we hoped it would. It happens,
Yeah, it's like getting cut from a band contest.
Right.
It's going to happen.
Right.
And it's not something you have control over.
Right. Well, we had 2 saxophonists, and both of those tracks got cut. Not because of them. It just didn't work out musically, and they understood.
Yeah. I guess I didn't necessarily have a question. I just think
It's okay to cut people.
yeah, if you're listening to this for like tips and like lessons learned, that's probably one of them, is like it's okay to not use all 30 people's recordings, right?
To be fair, the Gael was actually a 5-minute tune for the project, and it turned out to be 4 minutes. We cut most of that intro out, and we wound up replacing all the saxophones and electric guitar. There was going to be a huge electric guitar solo that was, inspired by Mark Knopfler and inspired by that version, but it got cut. It did not work out the way that up here, the composer up here said, this is going to be great. And in reality, it was in fact not great. And it got cut, and we replaced it with Practice Chanter and Practice Pad with a telephone filter to make it sound like it was a Zoom practice. And that was a little smart Alec thing that I put in just to reference the fact that we were doing this in a pandemic. But it's funny how that actually turned out better than that whole other minute of stuff would have been.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, let's move into number 7.
All right. Let's go to Mike for this one, and then we'll go to Kevin. What was your favorite part about the project?
My favorite part. I think the best part was, very best part was seeing the final product that night at practice. And Chris said, look what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, all along, once I got the music written and, you know, I got my part recorded and everything, sent it out. That was pretty much, I didn't really hear any more about it. I knew people were working on it. But it was just like, wait. And then to see the final result, that was amazing. And I like doing the recordings too. And what I found out is when you're recording yourself like that, you really start focusing on the details. You focus on the music, and that's something that everybody needs to work on. Just learning to focus. So it's something I picked up.
Yeah, I know that was something we talked about amongst the drummers. We said, like, when you're playing it and recording it, there's something in your brain that freaks you out, and you're like, you start making mistakes, or you think you play it right, and then you listen to it back and you're like, oh.
Oops. Yeah.
It's like playing for a judge.
Yeah.
And you're the judge, and you're probably the worst judge you can have.
Yeah, learning to play tracks back to yourself and then play something else along with it. Mm-hmm. It's different. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you know, away from a band setup where we can see what's going on and hear what's going on right there, it's hard to do this in a vacuum. And that really is what we were doing. We were doing this in isolation, every possible meaning.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part, Kevin?
Being done with it? No, I'm not joking. I'm joking. You know, there was a real sense of achievement to have it done. And personally, I really enjoyed hearing everything come together and become the actual final product and seeing it become a reality. But, you know, I would suppose that my absolute favorite part of this was seeing the look on everybody's face. And seeing their smiles and hearing their genuine reactions when, for that brief moment in time, it's like becoming a rock star for some of the folks in our band, right? You know, some people have done CDs, some people have done professional music in our band, and other people, this is the only music they've ever played in their life. And some have never been on YouTube before, they've never been on social media, but to see it all come together in one thing and see the genuine happiness of our band, that meant everything in the world to me. And you know, I would say also the video, you know, the song is one thing, and we made sure that tune was great, and it was a labor of love, and it was a ton of work for all of us together, several hundred hours if you add everybody in. But without the video, I actually now feel that it's boring. I would rather watch the video with the whole thing than just listen to the track. And before we even said this is a go and we got the final approval on the song, I had it in my phone and I was going on walks and listening to it over and over and over and over again. And then you reach that point of diminishing returns, whereas the audio engineer, you hear something and you think, I don't like this, so you screw with it. And then you make it worse. And then you realize you didn't save the previous one and you got to go back and do it again. But that was my favorite part, was seeing everybody's happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's sense of pride and accomplishment. Yeah. Yeah, I liked seeing because we shared it on our, Adela shared it to our members Facebook group before we shared it out to the whole of Facebook, and people were commenting like, wow, that's super cool, super awesome. And I know that there were people that for one reason or another, you know, weren't involved in the project. Maybe they were like out, or they weren't really doing pipe band at the point that we were getting the recordings or whatever. And they were commenting like, this is super cool. I want to be involved in this next time. And to that point, it kind of made a difference. I know I recorded Dave's video and audio, and I remember him being like, what is this even? Like, you want me to wear a cowboy hat and do what? Like, just play what? Why? And he was super, super busy at that point. I know I'm just picking on Dave at this point, but there are other people that were just super busy and just having a rough year and like didn't not have time for anything pipe band at that point. And to see those people like see the final product and being like, oh wow, either I'm glad I was involved in this, or next time I want to be involved in this. I think that was kind of the purpose of us doing it, right? Is to get excitement and to do something.
And be creative at the same time, and do something that not a lot of folks are doing. Not every pipe band has done one of these yet. And from our own experience, it's not easy. So if people are listening and they want to do this, reach out to us. I'll be happy to share some notes from an arrangement standpoint. Mike, I'm sure you would be too, but it is fun to see how it all came together. You made a great point there with Dave asking about, what are we doing? Why am I wearing a cowboy hat? Very few people probably had a view of the whole project overall. I would say that I didn't even fully know what the video was. I had no idea what the video was going to look like. I was involved in certain parts of it, but like, for example, when we all got together and threw the harness and the sticks and the drum into the pool, I didn't understand at the time that was going to be part of the intro into the jig in the video. I just thought we were being drummers and destroying property. That's what we were doing.
Once again, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen the video yet,
I think
No
that's
spoilers,
my
my
favorite part. Is that transition to the pool scene from the slow stuff. I think that's my favorite part of the video.
yeah, because you don't know it's coming, and then
it was cool. It was really good to see, and you're right. In the video, you didn't know what was coming next. Just like with some of the musical things, people may not expect it from our band, or they might not expect it from any pipe band, what we were doing. But you had some audio things that were kind of cool. And then to see what other people were submitting in the videos. I didn't see every single video. When I was pulling audio down from our Google Drive, I was just pulling the videos directly into GarageBand from the audio perspective and not even worrying about it. But to see what some people came up with, some of their creativity, some of their ideas, it was cool. And the drone footage was amazing. That was great.
Yeah, that was fun to shoot too. And I know we'll talk about that in the future. I think it's going to be the next episode. Don't quote me on that, but we'll do an episode on the video, how all of that worked and everything. But yeah, I think shooting drone footage was one of my favorite parts because
you got to fly around a drone.
Because I got to fly like over people as they're playing, and it was just so fun, and see the desert and everything.
Right.
Yeah. So, speaking of other bands doing this also, we'll go to Mike first and then Kevin like we did the last one. What, if anything, would you do differently next time if you were to do this again?
On this one, I don't think I would have changed a thing. But for the next one, something that I always think about when I get involved with these things. Of course, this one's going to stick around with us for a while because we have a video. But we've done some other things that we pulled together a musical group, different instruments, and then we put it in a show, and then it falls away. We don't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. I would like to see something arranged that could stand alone as part of a concert repertoire, but then we could also add instruments, add other parts as part of something bigger. So something small, something that we can use, but then expand on it, and something that we could keep playing and keep doing, so that all the work that we put into it can just keep on going. It can be part of what we do.
That's a good point. Yeah, because I know we'll probably play the Gael again. Although, who knows at what point we're going to have another big concert or something. But we'll probably play it again at some point. But you're right. It's kind of
Yeah,
It's
and
it's sad.
the challenge is adding the other instruments when our pitch is so high, and it's really hard to tune. So I think Kevin had a thing with the B flat chanters. It might be a thing we could do in the future is get B flat chanters
Mhm.
and use them for that. I think we already have some.
We have 4 B flat chanters in the band
Yeah,
inventory right now, but
I
that
would
wasn't enough.
if we were going to use them, I would be more than glad to buy my own.
Yeah.
Because I know there we could play with other musical groups, bands, orchestras, pipe organs.
Mhm.
Mhm.
There's a lot of opportunities,
Mhm.
and that's I think where this I can see that this is heading in that direction.
It is. I agree with you on that. I don't want to cut you off, or
Oh no,
Okay.
that's fine. I'm
Uh,
done.
Okay, all right. So things that I would do differently in terms of tuning and
Mhm.
actual technical side of it, the B flat chanters are definitely a way to go if you're going to be doing things with other instruments. I do see those opportunities coming along. A small theory that I hold regarding coming out of the pandemic with pipe bands is that yes, we will be competing again in the future. That will happen. But with entertainment in general, we've had a world that has been cooped up at home for a year and a half now. Entertainment and travel, and I'm not being a genius here when I say this is nothing shocking. Entertainment and travel are going to be huge. And where we may not get back to a competition status, hopefully by next season, yes, but clearly like the Worlds and everything is off this year, and bands wouldn't have been ready anyway. Things like concerts and festivals, more of a festival type involvement with Highland Games, tattoos, things like that. That's going to be a huge boost for the pipe band world, and the bands that jump on that may be onto something. We have opportunities with 2 different bands, brass and reed bands here in town. One is the Coast Guard Auxiliary Band, and the other is a community band that just started up last November in Mesa. The 103rd Regimental Band of Arizona, 103rd Arizona Regimental Band, that's what they're calling it. And so we've got opportunities to play. They want to do things like Skyboat with us. And I've already started looking at arranging and composing pieces for their band to go along with some of our already available repertoire. So like some of the quick march sets and whatnot, so we can use that. But going back to the question of what would we do differently, tuning was definitely an issue. So having the B flat chanters would have helped. I would actually also go with maybe going with a shorter set. We probably could have started smaller and had a quicker turnaround time. This was a huge learning curve, and it was a massive endeavor to play a 4-minute set with this many instruments, this many tracks, and to be fair, not an easy tune. The slow air has a lot of long notes. That requires blowing steady tone. The jig itself, we didn't play it as fast as we could have. We didn't rip it up to 115 beats per minute like we originally thought we were going to do, but that has some interesting rhythmical work as well, and executing that correctly across a band is not easy from the piping perspective, but also the snare part and the other instruments. And you can hear that in the little places. We left it where someone may not have executed it perfectly, but instead of going in and being nitpicky and moving a note, a hair of an eighth of a beat, leave it where it is, because that's the reality of what we're doing. But I would have gone with an easier piece in hindsight.
That makes sense. Yeah, and I know we've talked about this in previous episodes that we've, when you put something like this out on social media, there's a large percentage of the pipe band world that is used to and only ever wants to see pipe band videos of your competition MSR and your competition medley. That's all they've ever seen. That's all they ever want to see. And then you put something out like this out there, and there was a lot of pressure for us to make it perfect, But the reality, like you said, is, that's not really what this was supposed to be. I mean, we started it, for goodness sake, with practice chanters and drum pads. Like, it's not meant to be a competition MSR. It was meant to be, like we said earlier in this, a project we could all work on together to have something that we can all be proud of during the pandemic when there was nothing at all. So,
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Maybe it should have been better. You know what I mean? Like more, I don't know. I think it was very good, but I could see how you're saying, every little note is not exactly where it needs to be.
And I'm not being disrespectful to our band when I say
No.
that a grade 3 band is not going to have everything perfect every single time. Anyway, that's the definition of the grade. But even then, there's pressure in the pipe band world to make sure that we're not turning out something that has no ensemble. We're creating ensemble from socially distant ensemble. I mean, that's what we're kind of doing, right? Quarantine ensemble, that's an oxymoron as a term. You have to be able to play together as a band. That's the whole point of being in a band. So, it was difficult to put that ensemble sound together and make it match. Even with a master track, it's hard to do. But yeah, I'm with you on that. One thing that I was dreading personally was we released this video, we released this tune, and here come all the bad juju and trash talking and everything else, and what people say in their own home, whatever, great. But so far, all the feedback has been excellent. I haven't seen one snarky anything about this, and that was really cool.
The only snarky comment I got was, why'd you throw a drum in the pool?
So that was a big deal.
It was okay. Why would we throw a perfectly good drum in the pool, guys? Think about it.
It wasn't a perfectly good drum. And
Exactly.
that's the answer.
People were so worried about it.
Right. So, I don't want to take that away from the video episode that you're going to do, because you're going to talk about the video. But surprisingly, that was the biggest shocker of everything was, why did you guys do that? How did you play a drum underwater? Well, we did. And that's how it went.
Fight me.
Yeah. We thought about throwing some pipes in the pool, but we didn't have a spare set of pipes that we could sacrifice to the pool.
Right. Wouldn't that have been amazing though, with all the air bubbles coming out of the drones underwater?
Time to renew it. That would have been. I don't know, Mike. Do you have a spare set of pipes?
I do have 2 sets of pipes.
One that we can drown in the pool.
And one is plastic.
There you go.
Oh.
Well, where was he when we were doing that?
Exactly.
We didn't tell any of the pipers.
Right. That's right. It was top secret. That's right.
Yeah. No spoilers for the video episode, but once again, I know that's the biggest comment we got was like, why?
Why not?
Because why not? We talked about blowing one up. We talked about literally putting, explosives in a drum, but didn't want to, burn down the house or the desert here. So anyway, okay. Last question. Do you think, or do you hope, or that the band will undertake another one of these video projects in the future?
I think we have to.
We got to one up.
I would love to.
I think we will. I think we will do. And there's already been some light talking about it among certain folks in the band. And, again, we've got these opportunities with other groups in town that want to work with us. And we absolutely should. Just to show that this wasn't a one-off and it wasn't a fluke. I mean, it was a lot of hard work. And I don't want to do something this in-depth for the next one, but then maybe the challenge will write itself and we'll come up with something that's even better. We owe it to ourselves to keep doing this while we don't have the opportunities to perform in public. When we return back to normal and everybody's working normal, normal everyday schedules, and we go back to our normal competition work, obviously the focus has to go back to things like that. But for now, this is awesome. Why aren't we doing more of these?
Okay, so I said that was the last question, but Kevin, you're our drum major. Do we have the green light to wear cowboy hats and bolo ties as a part of our uniform in the future.
Ooh, this is rough. This is putting me on the spot. So, former Pipe Band Association president here needs to say that the rules state we have to wear Glengarry for competition. For gigs, if it just happens, I'm not going to say anything.
If the boot
I think I'm more, yeah, if the boot fits, wear it, right?
Yeah.
Nah, I wouldn't be opposed to it for certain types of performances. I actually think it would be cool for audience engagement.
Mhm.
No crowded rooms though, because I think that would just bump and knock them off. And
Yeah, true. Wearing that for St. Patrick's Day in a pub. Oh.
Gosh.
Yeah, watch the cowboy hats on the counter march.
I don't believe the rules prohibit cowboy boots.
I feel like that would be uncomfortable.
I don't know. My boots are pretty comfy.
I've never worn cowboy boots, so I guess I'm not one to talk.
If you get some good boots, good pair of boots.
Considering that ghillie brogues are a medieval torture device by design, I don't know. I can't tell you one is more comfortable than the other.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know. We'll see. What do our listeners think? I would like to know that. I would like to know if you want us to wear cowboy hats and cowboy boots.
We did an episode on the rules. I don't remember the hats being specified in the rules. But that was a while ago, so what do I know?
That was a long time
Yeah.
ago. We'll have to, we'll check into it.
Definitely. Just do it and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
It's only a bad thing if the letters DQ show up on the score sheet, right?
True. Well, any final thoughts, you guys, before we... Thank you for being on the show. I don't know if we said that before, but...
Thank you for having me back. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And, just my last thought would be there's a lot of talent in this band that has become really evident here. A lot of people, a lot of different skills that just sort of came together. It's impressive.
I'm proud of us.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely delighted with everybody in our band for stepping up to do this work. And the comfort level, there were a lot of people that were uncertain about this. Final thoughts, I just think we need to do something like this again and keep doing anything we can to remind ourselves why pipe band is important to us and why this music is important, and just keep us focused on something.
Yeah. Focus.
Yeah. Cool. Any final thoughts?
Have a good Monday.
Yep. Have a good Monday or whatever
Or-
day you're listening to this
If
on.
you're a patron, have a good Saturday.
Or Sunday. Have a good day. Have a good day, and we will see you guys, or you will hear us again sometimes
Next week.
soon. Next week.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yes.
That's an old
Bye.
reference.
Oh my.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this show, then support us on Patreon for exclusive content as well as the video of us recording this. We'll have special exercises we'll be writing as well as tips and tricks with tenor drumming and other instruments to come. Subscribe to us on YouTube for some tenor tutorials and possibly other tutorials later on. And like us on Facebook at Podband Pipecast.